Welcome to the Hot Cage Podcast. My name is Franklin. On this episode of the Hot Cage Podcast, we'll be joined by Jason Cruz of MMA Payout. We will talk about the payout perspective for UFC 168. MMA Payouts 13 for 13, the top stories of the year of 2013, and then we will go into our review of the Bossy Awards, Boss Rutan's Awards from Inside MMA. I will do all of this, as I said, with my guest, Jason Cruz. He is the senior writer for MMAPayout.com and can be followed at Dilettante. He is the Darren Ravel of MMA and no lower than second greatest person ever whose initials were JC. Sorry, Jason, I couldn't give you the top spot. Tim Tebow would kill me. He's Jason Cruz. Jason, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's always great to be back on, and thanks for having me on, John.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get right into UFC 168. It's billed as one of the biggest fights of all time in the UFC. So my question to you is, let's do a rundown. Let's talk about what you saw from a financial perspective.
Well, just right up front, one of the big things that we talked about right up front was the raise in the pay-per-view price, which went from with a $5 bump up, which was $59.99 for HD, $49.99 for standard definition. A lot of uproar about that. I don't think it's going to affect the bottom line of pay-per-views. Dana White indicated that it was going to be a one-time thing, and we'll see if it truly is just a one-time thing. As for the actual attendance, second best crowd in for an MMA event at the MGM Grand, 15,650 gate for a total. 50,650 in attendance for a gate of 6.2 million. Only second to Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen 2, a couple of Julys back. As far as the bonuses go, Miesha Tate, Ronda Rousey, and Travis Brown were the recipients of the bonuses, which were actually up to $75,000, which is a $25,000 increase from the normal standard. Fight of the night, Rousey Tate, which probably hands down was the fight of the night. Submission of the night went to Ronda Rousey, although Jim Miller could have made an argument there for his slick armbar setup and actual finish of a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And KO of the night, Travis Brown, for raining down those elbows on Josh Barnett. The salaries for the top performers of UFC 168 had Chris Wyman getting a big pay increase. He received $200,000 to show, and another $200,000 for the win bonus. Anderson Silva, even though he lost, received $600,000 for his participation. Ronda Rousey ended up in total with her bonuses and all, with two bonuses. She ended up with $250,000 for the night. Miesha Tate didn't do bad either. She had made $28,000 to show, plus her $75,000 fight of the night bonus for a total of about $103,000. So there you go. The rest of the salaries were revealed actually today as well. One of the other things, this was one of the first pay-per-views they've had in a while where they've actually had closed circuit at the MGM Grand, which they were selling for $60 for a person to enter. So all in all, a pretty big event.
So my two questions, just on the heels of what you just said, are, can we draw a straight line between the bump in the pay-per-view price and the bump in the bonuses?
When I first saw the bump in the bonuses, I was thinking the same. I'm not quite sure what to think of it because if you remember back at UFC 129, they were giving out $129,000 bonuses because of the magnitude of the event. Maybe you see the same thing here. Obviously, you look at the gate, and it was a sellout, and they were doing well. So perhaps they do bump up the bonuses for that. The one thing is whether we'll see of the fight of the night bonuses going forward for the pay-per-view. Will it go back down to the 50,000 or will it stay at 75?
And I guess my other question would be: does the closed circuit money affect the gate, or is it so? There's like you have your pay-per-view money, you have your gate money, and then is the closed circuit? Does it get factored into either one of those, or is it its own thing?
It's its own thing if it follows the same line as boxing. I believe that the gate is not affected by what the closed circuit gate would be.
Okay, because I wonder why they don't do closed circuit more. So I don't. It doesn't really matter. So the big news of the night was that Anderson Silva broke his leg in the main event where Chris Weidman retained his title. What are we looking for Anderson Silva moving forward? I know that Nike was not on him in terms of sponsorship for the fight. What's the story behind that, and is he still affiliated with Nike?
Nike is still affiliated with Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva is still affiliated with Nike. It was a little interesting because without anything being said, Anderson Silva said in an interview that about whether he's still sponsored by Nike to ask Dana. Dana kind of skirted the question as to the fact that there are UFC sponsors. Nike wasn't one of them that night. So you kind of take from that either Nike didn't want to pay the sponsor fee it was asked to pay, or it never did, and now the UFC was asking for it. So not sure what to think of it right now. But, Anderson Silva is still repping the swoosh just outside of the octagon.
Okay, and two final questions before we kind of put a close to UFC 168 and put it in the books. The Brock Lesnar rumors. A lot of guys were saying that Brock Lesnar was a done deal. There's no other reason for him to be in Vegas. He's coming back. GSP's gone. Obviously, everybody didn't know Anderson Silva was going to be gone, but now that he is. Does Brock Lesnar, do you think he's going to be in the UFC in terms of like right now is something being worked on? Or is there more of a urgency to get him back in the UFC if he's willing now that Anderson Silva's lost on the shelf for a little bit as well?
I think the question, was answered tonight when he appeared on Monday Night Raw on the WWE's programming. There's going to be a setup for him to be at WrestleMania, which is March, April this spring, where he is on that card. He's under contract with the WWE. I don't believe that the WWE would chance him getting injured, like really injured, in a UFC octagon. I just don't think that can happen. I'm not sure what kind of shape he's in. It did make for good buzz. If you were to say that the UFC just flew him into Vegas just to be in Vegas so that it could get the pot stirring. I don't believe, from what I'm hearing, anything to the rumor that he's going to be in the UFC octagon anytime soon. He makes a lot of money doing the fake wrestling, so I don't think he would be wanting to get back into the octagon. And the other thing is, just sorry to go on a tangent here, but if you have the free fight pass, you go back and watch UFC 141 and see how Alistair Overeem handled him. You kind of wonder whether you want to see him in the octagon again.
That's true. The way Travis Brown's throwing elbows, I don't know if anybody should be rushing back to the heavyweight division right now. So,
exactly.
I guess my other question, too, is that we'll get to this a little bit later when we talk more in depth about the UFC Fight Pass, but I'm wondering, Dana did a lot of promotion for this fight in conjunction with ESPN. I wonder how him promoting with ESPN, how does that affect the Fox relationship? Do you think they care? Why do you think they're okay with it? What are your thoughts on how he continues to use ESPN as a platform to promote his events, despite being in partnership with Fox?
Yeah, and the funny thing is he's done this in the past where he makes announcements for fights on ESPN rather than when a fledgling sports network like Fox Sports 1 could use that news. So, yeah, it's definitely a good question. I think the recognition is that ESPN needs the UFC for its coverage of MMA, and both Fox and Dana White, the UFC, recognize that more people, frankly, are watching ESPN. So for ESPN to grant them the opportunity to take over the Twitter handle or the Instagram for Saturday and take all these pictures and all these tweets, that's good for traffic for everybody. And it's interesting because ESPN has done away with its MMA Live and all those programs that were on the over-the-air television, but still sees some value in the fact that they want to have Dana White and the UFC on. So I mean, it's one of those interesting crossover things where they're competitors, but they'll allow this to happen.
Yeah, you know the old saying, Jason, a rising tide lifts all boats. So the better the UFC does, the better Fox does in the long run. So if UFC can use ESPN to lift their brand, in turn lifts Fox as well. So I think it's smart of Fox not to get in the way of that.